My inspiration for this project comes from one that I did recently where I cut the teeth off an old blade, glued on some sandpaper, and used that for edge sanding on my table saw. And also another project that I did about a year and a half ago where I made a wheel for my lathe for slow speed grinding that uses a similar idea that I want to use here. And as it happens, I'll be able to use the scrap from yet another project to do this, and I don't need a lot. Recently I built subwoofers for the listening room in my basement, and that left me with 2 of these cutouts that I can use to this. Since I'll be using the same size sanding belt that I used on my slow speed grinder, I'm just going to measure that wheel again to give me a rough starting point and set my beam compass to the correct radius and draw out the circles. Since this will be going on my table saw and my table saw's arbor is 5/8 of an inch, I'm going to drill out that hole in the center to that to begin with. And since I haven't finished my bandsaw yet, I'm going to use a jigsaw to quickly cut out each one a little bit bigger than they need to be. I'm going to be using my router table to cut these down to size, and what I'm doing right now is I'm drilling a pivot hole in a scrap of plywood, and that matches the holes that I drilled in the plywood blank, so I'll use that as a pivot point with a 5/8 inch shaft. What I'm doing here is the definition of sneaking up on the cut, because the sanding belt that I'm going to use has to fit on here perfectly. That means that I'll have to make several cuts, checking each time until I have it fitting exactly right. And then when I get there, I need to cut the other one to exactly the same size without changing anything. And I do that by sliding it down over the pivot pin while the router is cutting. And then before taking this one off, I need to draw another inner circle. And this really should have been done before I drilled the 5/8 inch hole in the middle. Would have been a little bit easier. But then this doesn't have to be perfect anyway. It's just for clearance on the inside so that I'll only have a single layer of plywood where it bolts to the arbor. Then I can take the full ring and put it inside the sanding belt and slip the partial ring inside and use those to mark where I need to cut. The way I'm putting the glue on here is so that it will glue the belt in place as well. And I'm doing it that way because, well, it's easy. And also, I think I'm going to be able to get a lot of sanding out of this single belt. So I won't have to change it very often. I let the glue dry on the wheel for about 2 hours, and then I took off the saw blade on my table saw so I can get it put on there. But I ran into a small problem, as you can see here. I didn't realize that I didn't have enough space between the end of the arbor and the side enclosure for the blade. Now, ordinarily, that would put the brakes on the project, and you'd say, well, next time I'll know better. But since I built this table saw to begin with, that means that I can make any changes that I need to get this thing to work. With that done and the saw turned right side up again, you can see how easily it goes in. I can get the flange on and the nut and try it out. I made this insert plate from 1/4 inch plywood and it works. The only problem with it though is that you really can't see anything here. So I took the time to make one from clear plastic, and that shows a lot more detail. This is a piece of cherry. It's very rough on that edge, and it's not very straight either. I'm going to run that over the sanding wheel a few times and make it nice and straight and smooth. The other side was cut on my table saw. It is very straight, but it has a burn mark there and some roughness, but a couple passes over the wheel and it's nice and straight and smooth.